Hey, it's From the West Barn with Joe West and
Mike Shimshack.
Today we got Tim Hicks, Canadian artist, massive Canadian artist, brought to us by our good friend Jeff Copeland, who's been on the program. So thank you, Tim, for being on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Welcome. You're calling us, you're from French-speaking Canada, yes?
No. I live in Ontario. I'm about an hour south of Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, real close to Buffalo, actually. I can be downtown Buffalo in half an hour, if the border were open, that is.
You in St. Catharines?
St. Catharines, exactly.
Yeah. I'm from the Buffalo area.
Okay, so you know it.
Yeah.
That's wild. I thought that an hour south of Toronto was the middle of a Great Lake, but I guess you're talking like kind of off to the side and down, huh?
Well, actually, a matter of fact, I'm I was going to talk in meters, but I'm probably less than a quarter mile from Lake Ontario right now. Like, it's literally right down the street here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let me tell the party people a little bit about you.
Sure.
Since his introduction into the Canadian country industry, Hicks has earned 4 nominations for JUNO Awards. He's won a Canadian CCMA Award. He's earned 3 platinum-selling singles, 9 gold singles, 1 gold album, 13 top 10 radio hits, including 2 #1 chart-topping singles, What a Song Should Do and No Truck Song. His music has been streamed to date over 81 million times. I got that off the internet, so I'm sure it's higher than that. He's toured with Dierks Bentley and Brantley Gilbert as they made their way through Canada. He tours headlines on his own to massive audiences all across Canada. In 2018, he was presented with the first Nielsen Compass Award. That's an award that recognizes artists for the most total content plays, including streams, singles, album sales, as well as total social media following. He also won this award again in 2019. I'm sure he'll win it in 2020. Welcome to the show. That's an impressive resume.
Yeah, it's like you're talking about somebody else. Like, it's just so bizarre that we're, I don't know how much of my story you guys know, but I was a working musician for 18 years before I ever had a song on the radio. So it's, when you stack it all up like that, it's pretty surreal to think about all the things that we've managed to accomplish over the last 8 years.
It's incredible. So 18 years.
Yeah, 18 years. Yeah.
So, at that point you're thinking, well, I guess this is it for me, right?
I'd had enough at that point. To be honest, I was playing in bars. There was no there was a scene here. I don't know. I'm sure it was similar in the States, but in the 80s and into the 90s slightly, there was a scene where you could be a mid-level band and make a living and go out and play 5-6 nights a week and just never come home. Like, you just book a front end someplace and then drive to the next place and play 3 nights. And that whole thing fell away. Before I was on the scene, just before I was on the scene. So I kind of just I hung with a lot of guys that were on that scene. And so I kind of made my own scene based on what they were talking about. So I was doing Tuesdays, Wednesdays by myself, just at a pub, like acoustic guitar, taking requests. And then by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was playing with the band, and I might do like a matinee on Sunday or something like that. So it was just a matter of trying to get out to play as much as I possibly could.
You don't even look old enough to have done 18 years plus another 8.
I was way underage when I started. In fact, I was 14, 15 when I started playing in bars, and I grew a goatee so they wouldn't bother me, because at one of my first gigs, they knew we were very honest young men, and I told them I'm 15, and they said, "You're what?" I said, "I'm 15. They said, "When you get done this set, you got to go stand out on the sidewalk." So it's like February. I'm out standing on the sidewalk, sweaty from my set, and then they would let me back in and go straight on stage and play. So shortly thereafter, I was like, well, I'm not doing that again.
There's got to be a point at which you're thinking this is it. I've hit the ceiling. I don't know if age matters in Canada, but everyone has that illusion that, once you're past your 25th birthday, you can't make it anymore. You're too old.
Yeah, well, that's what I love about country, because I looked around and I did every kind of music. I played on cruise ships. I was in tribute bands. We did the dress up thing, all of which served songwriting down the line, but I didn't know it at the time. But it was just one of those things. It's I looked around and I saw Keith Urban and Blake Shelton and all these guys were in their mid to late 30s, maybe even early 40s at the time. And I thought, well, that it was perfect for me. I was coming in, I was a 30-year-old man when I decided I was going to do country full time. And it was just the perfect timing, to come into that. And, already having played for all those years and played country for all those years as well, but just didn't do it. In Southern Ontario, there really wasn't a market for that, to go out in a bar and play. Like, there was no honky tonks. It was just chicken wing bars. So you played everything, because they were asking you for Brown Eyed Girl, and then a lady had asked you to play Friends in Low Places. So you played everything from, Frank Sinatra all the way to U2 and back. But there came a point where, country just blew up, and I happened to be standing in the right place at the right time.
What was that? Like, how did that corner turn for you? Like, what was the thing that
I'll tell
broke you into it?
This was the thing. The quick story is that while I was playing covers all those years, because I figured I could make a living. I could keep the lights on. And, they give me $100 or $80 at the end of the night. And that was all I needed at the time. But when it came time to do, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
We were asking, like, how that corner turned, and you went from playing 18 years to, like, actually having a career.
Right. So I decided that instead of doing like 1 gig a month and playing originals, I was going to do covers, with the idea that, one day my number would come up and I would be musically in shape and vocally in shape to be able to handle whatever it is the ask was. So I took a lot of crap from my musician buddies, like, why aren't you doing originals? And one night, sure enough, I'm playing at my house gig in Toronto. Every Wednesday I played at this Irish bar, and these two fellas saw me and said, we like your voice. Do you write songs? And I said, yeah, I write songs. But at that point, I wasn't writing. I was really just working. But I just always said yes to everything. Yeah, I write. They said, well, we've got a pub deal over at EMI. Why don't you come over and write some songs with us? So I did, and we demoed those songs, and they took them to Nashville and played them for, who became my record label and management and all that. So it happened so quick. And at the exact same time that was happening, we had a baby. So it was as if the universe was like, that career you always wanted? Well, here's a chance at that, and here's a baby. Juggle that for a while. Like, it was It was a pretty intense time.
That's incredible. You think when we list your resume at the beginning, it's like, okay, this guy's a superstar. No. But then you hear you, and it's like, you're really just like everyone else that had this little window of opportunity that worked out. And it's like, it's not like you planned it. It's not like, and there was any like master plan that was like maniacal to get to a certain thing. It would just presented itself at a moment over a long period of doing what you do. Right.
Yeah. And I've talked about this a lot. It was as if, like, cause I tried all my 20s, like, you're hungry for a record deal. You don't even know what that means when you're 20 and what the implications of that and the pressure of that. But I tried. Canada's a very large country geographically, but very small in terms of like the music business. And I tried to get anybody to call me back, and no one would. But I think that had a lot to do with the fact that it took me a long time to figure out where it is I belong as an artist. And once I figured out that, this is what I need to be doing. It was the rock country thing, that was happening. The Eric Churches, the Jason Aldeans. All of a sudden, it was like the clouds parted, and I went, "Oh my God, that's what I do." Like that, like bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd. Like, we were out covering all that Southern rock stuff with the guitar harmonies, and but we felt like a rock band. But people kept asking us, "Will you play country? Play Keith Urban. Your voice would suit it." So when I started actually digging into that material early on, it was like, "Oh my God, I found out where I needed to be." And so I think that the stars only align when you put it out, when you stop caring so much about trying to make it, things started to fall in line for me.
Well, and you just did it for, like, how many times, even if you stand under a tree in the middle of a lightning storm for a million years, you're probably going to get hit by lightning, right? Yeah. It's like there's the law of averages that come into it as well. Yeah. It's like, just keep doing what you like doing. The other thing that you said that's really interesting is, I've noticed it in so many of my songwriter friends, like Craig Wiseman, who's a phenomenal songwriter, prolific songwriter of the decade down here, and probably 30 number ones by this point. But
easily,
he started in a cover band, playing drums in a cover band. Yep. And all my friends that played in cover bands are good writers. because they kind of have this bibliography of like, oh, it's like that Skynyrd thing, but we're going to do it in our song. It's going to be different, but it's like, it's going to do that thing that it did in the Skynyrd song, or it's going to do that thing it did in this other song. Oh, let's use a flat 7 in this because we want it to feel like Danny's song. You know, it's like, let's use the mechanics of all these songs we've been covering for years. Well, that's really well versed.
When you shed material like that, and you actually have to sit down and learn parts, and you unconsciously start to unravel, you know, how to construct a song or how to deconstruct it. And then once you figure that out, then you just go, okay, well, if I do that backwards, I can build one.
You metabolize it into your own sort of DNA. And then when you're writing, it's not, you don't rip off the other thing. Yeah. It just is like, it's just your education, I guess.
It's your education. And I say that all the time because my grandfather, he's still with us. And, you know, was a blue collar guy through and through, has no idea, even to this day, what I do or how I do it. And he asked me all the time, like, how do you write a song? How many songs did you write when you were in Nashville? I'm like, I don't know. I went for 2 weeks. I got 22 songs out of it. He goes, how do you even do that? How do you write a song? I said, well, it's like a contractor can look at a home, stand in front of it and go, oh, okay, I see what they did there. Oh, I got to remember that with the thing they did with the stairs. That's a good idea, you know, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Same with songwriters listening to songs on the radio. It's like we're all listening going, oh, clever. I see they brought the bridge back, you know, or like whatever it is, you know. So you're all, you know, once you have an understanding of how those pieces fit together, then you hear it in a different way. Right. And you can see it, you know, you can see, just like I said, just like a contractor can look at a house and understand how they built it, you know.
That's when I first started really appreciating songwriters, I was like, I just thought it was magic. I literally thought they were pulling rabbits out of hats. And it was like, I didn't see the, you know, like in the Matrix where they say, oh, I see a blonde walking down the street whenever the Matrix was going down the screen. Yeah. It's like songwriters can see like, oh, it's like you're preoccupied by this feeling we're giving you. But the substruct of that is it's completely, oh, it's a 6-5-1-4 progression. Okay, we're going to hit the 2 minor for the pre-chorus.
Yes.
When I was a kid, it took us, all my bands would rehearse for hours on end and still not know the songs.
Yeah.
I can go play songs without even listening without ever playing them now. You know, you're just like,
have an understanding of where it's going.
Yeah, and that was one of the big reveals for me as a songwriter. It's like, oh, there is a real form and structure to it. And there's a beauty of being able to hide that from people. But you can't come down. 20 songs in 2 weeks is pretty good, I must admit.
Well, we do 2 a day. Like if I'm there, I've got two little ones and a wife at home, and I'm usually limited in my time, and I just want to get as many great songs as I can and get home so I can be a part of that. But yeah, I'll do 2. Sometimes we'll write 3 songs a day, and I hang with Jeff. Like for the last few years, I'd stay at his house and we just live and breathe it, you know, for a week or 2 weeks.
Let's talk a little bit about Jeff Copeland.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like a couple of bachelors, right? Living on tacos and tequila. It's great.
He's like an extraordinary dude, man. We've been knowing Jeff. I've known Jeff for, I dare say, 25 years.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You know, all the way back to New York. Jeff and I have been all around the world making records together, crammed into studios in Germany. Yeah, and he's just a special dude. That guy has got like, I don't know what it is about Jeff Copeland, but I tell all my friends is that I never will worry about Jeff Copeland. As with all of us, the life cycle is a roller coaster. You go up and you go down. Yeah. But I'll never worry. Some folks should be like, I don't know if he's going to come out of that. And you worry about somebody and he's got to really dig in and check on him. Jeff will always survive. And I think it's because he's so freaking talented. Mm-hmm. His ability to just like, again and again, come up with compelling content. He goes from one deal to the other deal, to one developed artist that gets a record deal, to another. And it's like the one thing in common is Jeff Copeland. And I can't figure that out, but I think it's just raw talent and an undying drive.
Absolutely. And he's one of these guys that has a clear vision for something before you even know it as an artist, you know, and that's a really valuable thing in this business. And also too, his ability to withstand the heartbreak of the business. You know what I mean? Because, you know, anybody that develops talent like he does, inevitably at some point in the game gets pushed out. Yeah. But he keeps going back to the well. I don't know what it is. You know, so there's something for him that's exciting about like finding talent, digging that out, polishing it up, and putting it out in the world and being a part of that. And somehow he winds up okay every time, which is, to me, is like, because I've had lots of bands, and when your band breaks up, it's like a relationship breaking up. Yeah. And it still hurts, even to this day. So I don't understand how a guy can develop talent like that and just let artists go and do their thing, and he's totally cool with it. And so that's what makes him unique and special, I think, too.
How much of your success do you rely on, like, the team around you? Like, when you think about the people that are continually part of records, it's like, if you took them out of play, do you think you'd lose your angle on success?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It takes a village. And, I'm in a unique position now that I'm an established artist. So maybe a little less than,
you can maybe find another person to fill those shoes, because
yeah, sure. But I mean, the first 2 years of my career at the national level, I was like a deer in the headlights. And I literally relied on everybody to help make those decisions about, like, well, what director should we get for the video? It's like, I don't know. I never made a music video in my life. How do I know who can direct something? Or we're going to I was timid even on the picking of songs on the first record, at least, but that's the thing. It's like, as you get a little older and you stick around a little longer, and you start to feel like, well, I have a voice and I want to use it. And so now I can pick up the phone and call my team and say, I'd really like to do, X, Y, and Z. And
let's say, like, on the studio and songwriting side, you've got yourself in some creative groups. Do you think but those people are so nameless and faceless, and it is what it is. They get paid on the back end, so that's what they bought into it for that. But do you think that you could continue on having? How difficult would it be to shift gears and kick? Let's say you totally iced out your creative guys that you've been making records with, and you had to build a whole new team.
Yeah.
How difficult would that be to accomplish success?
So difficult, because you establish relationships with people. And even from the songwriting perspective, like, we've had lots of talks in the office about, okay, well, who are we gonna connect with on this round to write with? And I'm always the guy that's going, I'd like my usual cast of characters. I would like to write with Jeff and Phil and Bruce, and I've got, like, my list, Emily and Karen Kozowski. Like, I've got my list of people that I'm really comfortable working with, and that's because I can say to them, guys, I'm not going to say that, or guys, I'm not going to sing that. You know what I mean? And I can be honest with them and know that I'm not going to offend anybody. But I find it difficult when you write with new people to be critical in a constructive way. You know what I mean? Like, even in a constructive way, I have a difficult time saying, I don't really want to do that. Yeah. But I can say that with my usual guys. So to make a long story over, yeah, I think it would be difficult to take everyone out of the picture and start again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've got some ideas on how I'd like to move forward. I'm, what am I, 5 or 6 records in now at some point? And it's like, I've been kind of doing, not that I've been doing the same thing over and over again, but I, as the managers would say, I'm a well-established brand, but I'd like to bust out of that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I sang all kinds of different stuff. Like, I'm the party country guy up here in Canada, but I'd like to. It takes all kinds of songs for a great show. So I'd like to see some different stuff, and I'd like to reflect moving forward, like, a little bit more of my acoustic career coming up, like my singer songwriter thing. I played a lot of guys like Neil Young and who else? We've got a band up here that I love called Blue Rodeo.
Oh yeah,
lots of that. Yeah, like kind of harmonica, sort of alt country rock kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where I'm headed. I'd like to do that. So maybe I need to find some fresh meat to collaborate with. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really cool point. It's like, when I was my publisher, it's their job to get you in the room with opportunity, but I would always find myself in a room. Mike, tell me if I'm wrong. I'd find myself in a room writing with someone and being like, why am I not writing with the metric ton of people I love writing with? And why am I in with this person that I don't even know and I'm having a horrible day? Why don't I just write with all those people that I love and we get great stuff?
Yeah.
know?
And I think that, because, and the answer that I always get, and I see validity in this, is you never know where the next great thing is going to come from. And how do you get to that point to be comfortable with somebody if you don't just go through the motions of writing, the first three songs?
You're right. I get it. But it goes down to that philosophy where the football, there was a football coach that had done the math and said, we have a better chance of odds if we don't punt on fourth downs, right? He's running the numbers of like what you get per carry, and it's the odds. It said you shouldn't punt. You should never punt. So for me, it's like, okay, I need to run the numbers, but it's like, for the wasted days, are those punts when I'm writing with people I don't know, or am I going to find some magic relationship that's going to be my next great 3 years of writing? So
And so, for instance, I just had an experience writing with another artist who is wonderful and doing wonderful things. And what was interesting about the write was this person made the single greatest mistake you can make as a songwriter when you come into a session, which is if I set up a write with you, I want to write what you do.
Right.
No, I want you to bring something new to what I do. You know what I mean? So that we get a new thing. And what ended up happening was, they just wanted to write.
Great point.
What I did.
Great point.
Like, well, no, I've got lots of that. I want different stuff. Like I don't, it sounds awful to say, but it's like, I don't need you to help me write what I write because I already do that. You know what I mean? I want you to bring something different. So it's, even that was difficult to say in a write to someone.
That's when I was young, I would try to, if I go in with a gunslinger, I'd try to like really step up my guitar playing game. And it was like, wait a minute. And as I got older, I realized, I need to like embrace not doing that because he's doing that today. So much, and it's out of fear. I was so afraid that people would find out that I didn't deserve to be in the room. So people would find out I was a fraud. But, there's that whole syndrome where people think they're frauds. So, it's like, it was only through maturity that I learned, like, I got to be what the room isn't. If this guy's really great at that, I got to learn I'm going to be more on lyrics today. Or I'm going to be more on like melodies or interesting chord changes or programming or whatever. Yeah. That takes a minute because it's a blow to the ego because it's like, I got to try to be that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think that's a common thing with artists, songwriters, anybody that sort of works in the creative field. It's like, if you ask anybody, they always say, I don't think I belong here. You know what I mean? But it's like, you belong there. You're there. So you belong there. You know what I mean? And I have that, even almost 10 years into hanging out down in Nashville writing, at least once a trip, I have holy shit, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee writing songs. Can you believe this? Like at least once on a trip, I have one of those moments. Like, I can't even believe, like if you would have told 15-year-old me or 16-year-old me that's, that when you're 40, you'll be going down to write. I just wouldn't have believed it. It's one of those things.
How many, what's the chances of someone getting a Tim Hicks cut that you didn't write? Are you doing records and picking songs? Is there any songs on any of your records you ever written?
I did that a lot more early on. So there were a lot of outside cuts on my second record, for instance, and singles that were outside cuts. And, that was fine. There was a time and place for that. And I would do, like, if someone sent me a song that was stellar, I could set my ego aside and go, this is something I want to cut. And I always know, because there are the odd times, even lately, that I'll cut something that I didn't write, but the hair on the back of my neck has to stand up. So there's a little bit of a gauge there. And oftentimes, like, what I'm finding is my management, especially because they've figured out who I am, is they will bring outside songs in to light the fire under me, to be like, you got to beat this, you know. They're always very supportive. Like, we want you to write, you need to write your own thing. Like, you're that kind of guy. But there's this one over here that we're going to cut if you don't. And sometimes I love those songs, and sometimes I'm like, it's motivation for me to try and but I don't, at the end, like, for our team, the best song always wins at the end of the day. That's what we've always, that's been our motto the entire time. And on the last few records, I've just been lucky that, or mouthy enough with my team to be like, no, I'm cutting these ones, so because there haven't been any outside cuts in a little while, but that's not to say that there won't be down the road.
I think you're right. Whenever you say like best song wins, You know, there was me and a buddy we moved to Nashville together, and we'd written hundreds of songs together, and we were trying to get a record deal, and we just were good buddies, and we just been writing forever together.
Yeah.
And we were known as like a songwriting duo, and we were trying to cut this record on him, an artist record, and we were like, there's no way we're going to cut outside songs. We're two songwriters, and that's like what we're known for.
Yeah.
And then we heard, this is before Rascal Flatts cut it, we heard What Hurts the Most by Jeffrey Steele.
Yep.
And it's funny, as soon as we heard it, both of us were like, we got to cut that song. Like it went from like, we'll never do that because we think we're songwriters and we think we know, to like, we can't not cut that song. A great song changes everything.
Changes.
And people that tell you like, oh, it's a rigged game, and okay, there's probably plenty of that going on. But at the end of the day, you show up with 10 What Hurts the Most, and you try to get people to not win with 10 of those songs, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the beautiful thing about songwriting. You could show up out of nowhere and then just slide a CD under a door, and next thing you know, the song, if it is the song, will just spread like a virus.
I had an experience. Sorry, Mike, go ahead. You haven't.
No, I was just saying, recognizing. I think being a songwriter, you recognize other great songs.
Yeah.
You know? And again, like you said, if you could put the ego aside, it's
it's not even at that point. You're like, I can't not cut that song.
Yeah,
I have to cut that song.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, that's the beauty of a great song.
Well, I had an experience with an outside cut. So early on, like one of the first songs that I was ever pitched, I fell in love with. I loved it. And my A&R guy gave me a folder and said, go through these songs, check them out. If there's anything in here, like, let me know. So I rolled in and into town, and there was 3 songs that I loved. And I took them upon myself to demo, and I learned them, and I sang them in the office, like out of a movie kind of thing, like try to impress these guys. And one of the songs was You Ain't Worth the Whiskey, that Cole Swindell cut. And he hadn't done his artist career yet. He was just songwriting and doing that, hanging out on Music Row. And I learned it. I demoed it. I sang it in bars. Every time I sang it, somebody would come to the stage. Who does that song? Where can I buy it? I'd say, hopefully me. You never know. And when it came time to cut, the publisher said, no, he wants that for his own project. And of course, it went on to be a #1 song in America. And like, I was heartbroken that I didn't get to sing it, but it also gave me the confidence to go, well, I spotted that out of 48 songs that were in there. So at least there's something going on. Like, there was something in my gut that told me that this song is really great. So it kind of actually helped get over the first hump, which is like feeling that, you kind of deserve to be there. Kind of like what we were just talking about, what I mean? So, and you're right. A good song can change anything. It changes everything overnight. Cause like I said, even a song I didn't wind up cutting, it garnered us some attention while we were at our gigs, because, in between Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy and Sweet Home Alabama, you got to have good songs to throw in there. So that was one that people just knew that was a great song every time we sung it.
When you're cutting a record now, is it like, oh, we go into the recording studio like and have a full band in there and we start cutting, we cut for a week, or is it just like track building and adding one guy at a time? And
well, with that, when Jeff's producing, he likes to play most of the stuff. And I'll whine and complain to him until he gets a utility player, because I've got one in my band. So it's classic. And if he were on, we would laugh about this. So we'll do a song and it'll come back and it'll be great, but there won't be anything country about the production. Like no banjo, no steel, no the harmonies are way down. And I'll be like, Jeff, I've got a 6-piece band. I want to hear some steel on that. So we have to go back, and they're like, oh, okay, I'll spend the money. Producers are, right? Like they got to take that out of their budget. So he knows now. It's like there's always got to be a part for like I want to suit the production of the song to my band. You know what I mean? Not the other way around. But he'll typically build the tracks and play stuff. Like he'll have either cut drums and bass in a studio and where he's playing the bass, because he's actually a bass player. Great bass player. Yeah, with a drummer, and then bring those tracks back to his place, and then we just start building. And usually he's building from the demo, because we're cutting, that's one of the reasons why I got this microphone, was because he cuts with a Sony C800, those ones with big tail on the back. And with the idea that it's built that like you could cut a vocal, a year out from sessions and it sounds exactly the same. So if I cut a great demo vocal, then he'll just use that in the studio while he's tracking, and then either we redo it or we don't. But sometimes I can cut some stuff on this because it has the model, the same.
That's the Slate large diaphragm modeling mic.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having a Kemper or like amp modeling, but for your microphones. And we've A/B'd them, and there's still a difference, but he's like, it's pretty negligible. So there's stuff on my records that I cut sitting right here, at this thing. So with us, it's because I don't live in Nashville. A lot of it is track building. But interestingly enough, what we were talking about before you started recording, a time when Jeff wasn't producing, it was because I wanted to do the Nashville, like go down in a studio with a band, live off the floor and play. And he's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, then I'll get another producer. And it was, it was a bit like that. And I'm glad I did it. And he's glad I did it,
right.
Because I came back and said, okay, I like the way you cut records better.
Well, at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, I get it. If you're a producer like Jeff, it's like, that doesn't necessarily serve you to have guys doing linear tracking. It's pretty hook oriented. Everything's focused in on every bar having a hook.
Yes, and for me, like what I didn't understand was, so we, because we're working with a budget, and we're working in Canadian dollars, so you can do the math. It's not, it doesn't go as far. And there was one particular track where I didn't feel the guitar player nailed the solo, and I said, can we get another blast of the solo? And they were like, no, it is what it is. I'm like, well, what do you mean it is what it is? Like, can't we just have them play another solo? They're like, no, then we have to do another union card and it's going to cost more money. And I'm like, what? Like, that's when you learn about the nuts and bolts of making a record, right? Like, what do you mean it's going to cost more money? You just can't get them to play. Well, no. Well, we were there for that session that day and we left that day, and you should have said something if you wanted something different. So, but with Jeff, I can call him up and go, would you tune that thing for God's sakes and play another one? It sounds terrible. Click. And it's okay, and we still go for beers after.
Well, that's funny, because it is, Nashville's so friendly, but there is a little bit of that where it's like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, oh, you think you're like having this experience that it's like, oh, we're all buddies here, nothing matters. And then it's like, hey, could you stay for 5 minutes after the session and just finish this lick?
Gotta
no.
go. Yeah.
Gotta go.
On the other hand, though, I've been doing stuff where I send the tracks to Nashville musicians, but they're not all together in the room, especially during quarantine. They send to their own things. I find that these guys, when doing it that way, that they're not all in the room together, they want nothing more than to make you happy.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me know if there's any changes. Like, they're so accommodating when they're in their own space doing their own thing. It's a very different.
I think back in the old days, whenever like there was 10 2s and 6s and you're playing double scale and everybody's leaving one session to burn over to another studio, there was a minute where people just didn't. They were so inundated with it that they were just like, this is totally a job. And I think now in the new music economy, where it's like, I think musicians are grateful for the music and for the work.
Yes.
There's more of a connection with that.
It's a service business that way, So it's like you want to make your customer happy.
Those folks that were the real hard asses with that stuff and saying like, oh, it's a minute after the hour, I'm out of here. Those guys aren't working right now, I bet.
Yeah, well, for me, it was, in the moment, I'm sure any one of them would have stayed after the session and finished what we needed to finish, but it was like days later, because that's, for me, you get the tracks and you're listening. Right. I need to absorb them for a week to make decisions, and it was one of those situations where it's like, well, could we get another? And a week had gone by, and I was like, well, no, whatever's there, that's what it is. And it was wicked, believe me. Like, I still have the first take that I ever did on video, watching this band play my song. The first pass on the first time, they listened to it one time through and went and played it, and it sounded just like it was on the radio. So, as an artist and as to watch something like that happen in front of you was really exciting, and to get to sing with them. That was like a real pleasure, like being in the booth, because they're like, well, who's going to sit? Do you want to use the track? I was like, no, I'll throw the cans on. Come on, I want to sing. And that was really exciting to feel that energy.
in their defense, I think a lot of people, if you give an inch, they take a mile kind of thing, and they'll constantly ask for changes. And I'm sure that it's
absolutely
can of worms for some people.
For sure. And I get all of that. So, and I have zero hard feelings about it. I understand how it works. But I appreciate making records with just me and Jeff. You know, it's and I've always done it that way. Like I've always kept my touring band separate, and they're fine with that. I like to make the creative decisions. Like if I'm the guy that has to go out and sing it at 6 a.m. at a radio station or on television and go out and push it and do the work, then I want to be the guy at the desk with the producer making every call along the way, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of being an artist that is learning and knowing who they are. You know, you look at the early Keith Urban stuff with the Ranch, and you could tell he was just a guy that moved to town and was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He didn't know what was what. And now you look at him and you know Keith knows exactly what he will say, what he won't say, what he wants his records to sound like, where he wants to go. It's the beauty of becoming a mature artist. So,
absolutely.
And you've done that. So congratulations. Where can people find you online?
Oh, yeah. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Tim Hicks Music. I mean, they're all verified accounts, so don't believe it if you get some guy sending you a message with a fake phone number. It's not me. It's so weird.
We'll link all those down in the description. For those of you who don't know, we do this as an audio and a video podcast. So this can be found on our YouTube channel where you can see Tim's and Mike's beautiful face. And it's also an audio-only podcast on all the streaming networks. Please remember to subscribe, hit like, and hit notifications. Thank you for coming on and being such a genuine dude.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks.
It's really refreshing to see someone who's achieved your level of success and still maintain some semblance of, just humility.
Well, I wouldn't know how to do it any other way, so I appreciate that. Cheers.
Well, bravo. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That's it for this week. We'll see y'all next time. Signing off. This is Joe West and
Mike Shimshack
and
Tim Hicks
from the West Barn.
Hey, Tim. Thank you.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome, dude. Let us know when you're in town next time.
Yeah, I will. That'd be great.
We'd love to have you out we usually shoot this I have a big timber frame barn.
Oh.
We usually shoot it live it's called From the West Barn. It's usually in this big barn with like a 4-camera, shoot. So we'd love to have you in person. We'd love to write with you too when you come to town. So
for sure. Let's set that up. It's as soon as the border opens, I'll be down.
Awesome, brother. I will let you know before this goes to air, and we'll find maybe your manager could just shoot over your links for us.
Sure.
And let us know.
Absolutely. Or I can do that too. It's no big deal.
Awesome, buddy.
Yep. Thank you, fellas.
Be well.